Welcome back to Scarlet and Maze. I'm Adam.
I'm Zack.
Where the f*** is Lou Holtz? Michigan 30, Ohio State 24. When Ohio State beat Notre Dame earlier in the year, Ryan Day went on his rant where he proclaimed his and his team's toughness, mostly in a response to criticism that stemmed from the last 2 years against Michigan. He yelled about Lou Holtz questioning his toughness in Ohio State's losses during his time. And Ryan Day was on a mission to show the world that they were indeed super, super tough.
Yeah, it's interesting that you start with that, too, because, I feel like we didn't see that Ryan Day. That Ryan Day that was fired up, that was where's Lou Holtz at? I feel like we didn't see him. He didn't seem fired up on the sideline.
I agree.
And I think that he needs to be for this game, so.
Yeah. After the game on Saturday, J.J. McCarthy said, "I didn't think we proved any of those guys," meaning the doubters. They asked him if they've proved doubters wrong. He said, "I didn't think we proved any of those guys wrong, but that wasn't our intention. We proved ourselves right. We knew who we are as a team." During the game, Michigan was presented with a 4th and short, and they went for it and converted all 3 times. On Ohio State's second drive of the game, they gained 9 yards on 3rd and 10. And like an idiot, I threw my hands up thinking Ryan Day would actually have the stones to go for it on 4th and 1 from the 46-yard line. Lou Holtz wasn't wrong after all. At least for this game. I mean,
that's more about being ballsy than being tough.
But you need,
especially
they should have challenged it.
Yeah.
First of all.
Yeah, that was Xavier Johnson and he was on top of somebody when he got tackled, and it looked like I felt like it should have at least been reviewed or at least challenged by Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they didn't ring it down from upstairs because It seemed like they were doing that all game. But still, it was I think they marked it a full close to a yard at least short.
Right. But
4th and 1 from the 46. As a Michigan fan, if it was Michigan there, I would have been pissed that they didn't go for it.
Yeah.
In the last 4 years, in the 17 fourth quarter drives against Ohio State, Michigan has punted the ball 1 time. Other than victory formations and 1 missed field goal in 2022, every single fourth quarter drive by Michigan against Ohio State has resulted in points since COVID. I said 4 years. I was hoping you were going to catch on to it.
Oh, yeah.
It's 3 games.
Yeah.
But the weather was perfect. Big bad Connor Stalions wasn't there. Michigan didn't have their head coach. Michigan's best O-lineman got hurt on the play before Michigan's last touchdown, and their best cornerback, who'd mainly been shadowing Marvin Harrison Jr. all game, didn't play the 4th quarter because of injury. So I just wonder what the excuse is this time. There wasn't weather, there wasn't snow, there wasn't flu.
I don't think there's an excuse. I don't think you can ever excuse losing to Michigan.
I guess you already said we need a fired up Ryan Day, and we didn't get it.
Yeah, I would have. It's not an excuse. I just think that was an issue. I think that is. I don't think that's I'm saying Ohio State lost.
There is a difference between excuses and reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right, and I think that is something, win or lose, I would have been disappointed in, is the lack of being fired up, the lack of fire on the sideline. Ohio State in general.
Even with Connor Stalions gone and Harbaugh at home, Michigan covered the spread again, by the way.
Yeah.
For the 3rd straight year, though, Ohio State only scored 3 touchdowns on Michigan's defense, which is maybe why Jesse Minter was shown running out to midfield waving at the Ohio State bench. His defense wasn't great because of Connor Stalions. He is just a great defensive coordinator.
It is interesting that, Ohio State scored as many points, or at least close to as many points this year. It's all been around 20, 24 points the last 3 years. It is interesting that, by far, this was Ohio State's worst offense of the last 3 years.
With the best receiver. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm a huge Marv fan. I don't mean that to,
I'm a huge Marv fan, but I don't know, Jackson Smith and Jigba was crazy good. He was obviously out last year, Chris Olave was crazy good. Garrett Wilson was crazy good. Both those guys were on that team in 2021. I don't know if it's hands down Marv is better than those guys. I think
the thing with Marv for me is the one where he got interfered with, tackled as the ball was coming.
Garrett Wilson makes that catch.
I don't no, man.
Jackson Smith and Jigba makes that catch. I think even Olave makes that catch. Like those guys, I don't like those guys are really good, and I think that Marv is. I think there's easily an argument for it. Like, and obviously as a Michigan fan, you're a little less biased, just in general for him. And but I do think like the difference between like Marv and Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba does like the normal receiver things just as good, if not better, than Marv. But he's not as tall as Marv. I think that's the difference between Marv and those guys. I think those guys do everything just as good as Marv, or if not, maybe even a little bit better. But or at least when they were at Ohio State, they did. Right. It'll be interesting to see how Marv translates to the NFL. I mean, obviously, like Jackson Smith and Jigba hasn't had as good of a rookie year compared to Olave and Wilson. But yeah, I don't know if Marv was hands down the best receiver in the last few years.
Here's what I'll say. Like as a Michigan fan, it takes something for me to actually like a guy for Ohio State in football or Michigan State in basketball. Like Cassius Winston for me in basketball, I was like, man, I really wish he was on Michigan. Like I love Xavier Simpson, but I was like, Cassius Winston is just so good. Yeah. And I feel the same way about Marv, where I'm just like, goodness gracious, he just catches everything that comes his way.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, even just his stats alone, like, aren't even necessarily they're like I haven't looked at it, but I don't think he's had a single year that was better than Garrett Wilson's best year, or Olave's best year, or Jackson Smith and Jigba's best. Definitely didn't have a better single year than Jackson Smith and Jigba's single year in 2021. Mm-hmm. But
he had a better quarterback.
Yeah, that's and I think that is part of the factor. Like obviously he had a better quarterback, and that's the thing too. Is like even if Marv was hands down better than those guys, C.J. Stroud still had those guys that Kyle McCord didn't. Yeah. But
like the third and fourth option on those teams for Stroud were better than the third and fourth option this year.
2021, the fourth option was Marv.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Ryan Day sticks around, he's on pace to finally hang 100 in 2025.
Okay, so Michigan fans, like, no offense, but that statement, like, constantly bringing up the 100-point thing is just weird, and it, like, honestly, not trying to offend you, it makes me feel like you guys are insecure. It very clearly was a statement from summer 2020, and the next game, Ohio State was one of the best teams in the country, very good.
And Michigan was
what, 2-4? 2-4.
They were 2-5.
2-5. The COVID year, and then
maybe they were 2-4.
Then Michigan got COVID and then practiced the next day. So.
Well, they can't spread it to each other. Yeah. It's not a big deal then.
Yeah. So that was the year that Ryan Day was talking about hanging 100 on you. So on you guys. So
I just figured so you say it about the next matchup. And then the next matchup was 42-27 Michigan.
I don't know. You say it about that year. Michigan. No, like straight up, it's more embarrassing on Michigan's end to consistently bring up a game that they chickened out of. Michigan practiced the next day.
I'll just say I'm not embarrassed by.
And the more embarrassing part is like obviously the Big Ten had Ohio State's back because they were winning Big Ten championships in a row because like that's
and they changed the rules for Ohio State.
Yeah,
to go.
So they changed the rule for Ohio State could go to the Big Ten championship because Michigan chickened out of that game, and I feel like that was probably the only reason they chickened out of that game is because the rules.
It wasn't the only game they bailed out of, but.
Yeah, but it was the only game they bailed out of and then practiced the next day.
I don't know about that, but whatever. I'm not insecure at all about it. I just think it's funny how worked up you get every time I bring it up.
No, I'm not worked up at all. I just explained it.
Why are you shouting? So, 74 points in the last 3 games against Michigan. That puts him below the Brian Ferentz level of scoring required to keep his job.
Wow.
By the way. It's crazy to think about the fact. We talked about it, I feel like, in jest last week. Like, I honestly did not feel good coming into this game. And I said that because of Harbaugh being out, Sharon Moore, like J.J. McCarthy not scoring with Sharon Moore as the acting head coach. But it's crazy to think about Marvin Harrison Jr., possibly the best player in college football, one of the best receivers I remember seeing play in college. If he wants a pair of gold pants, he'll have to buy him off Terrell Pryor.
Goodness gracious.
That's crazy. Like, it's crazy to think about the fact that C.J. Stroud, probably the NFL Rookie of the Year, looking like the best rookie quarterback of all time, if he wants a pair of gold pants, he'll need to call up Terrell Pryor.
Yeah.
Or go to eBay.
It's like, well, it's just like interesting that like it goes to show because like there's always like it's always like 50-50 on the fact that like when it was 16-17 for Ohio State, or 16-17, they won 16-17 during that time. Like it was a kind of 50-50 from Ohio State fans where like Michigan needs to be better, so it's better for the rivalry. Michigan needs to be better. Like, oh, it's always better when Michigan's 11-0 and Ohio State's 11-0. But I don't know, man. Like, it's a lot harder to win when Michigan's consistently 11-0, obviously. But it just shows that like Michigan has some real wins in the rivalry right now. Like Ohio State is very talented, and like Michigan is still holding their own. Like, and that was the biggest. This game was the biggest game that they'll be for a long time. Yeah. Like unless things change.
Which, to be honest, my Michigan fan PTSD, it being the last whatever, like the game after Bo died, I was like, crap.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like anytime there was like, this is the last whatever, it was like, oh, Michigan's gonna lose this. So then it was like, oh, this is. And they said it during the promo, this is the last time it's going to be for a spot in the playoff, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh, no.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I think because of when I grew up, I think I will always be confident on that Saturday. Ohio State could be 0-11, and I'll be confident Ohio State's going to win that game. Partly because of years like 2018 where Ohio State lost to Purdue, Michigan was doing really well. Michigan fans had all the confidence in the world. I can remember I made a bet with Isaiah Jackson, and he was so confident, and I was like, Michigan's got no shot, bro.
We went to a basketball game the night before the game, and he was like, I don't know if I want to buy a Revenge Tour shirt. And I was like, I would wait, man. And he bought it. Now, I did buy this shirt before the game, but I was like, man, I don't know. I think I should have waited.
Yeah.
It was whatever. But, like, speaking of, like, you said Ohio State has obviously had great teams. Like, the 2021 recruiting class was one of the best of all time.
Yeah.
And they are now 3-0 or 0-3 against Michigan.
Part of that recruiting class being so good was Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
Which he transferred very quickly. But yeah, Jack Sawyer, JTT, both those guys were top 5 guys. Yeah.
Marv was vastly underrated.
Yeah,
but he was
but
still
Igbuka was
106 or something. I looked it up today.
Igbuka was still I think he was the number 1 receiver in that class. He was at least top 10 receiver in that class. Fleming was the number 1 receiver in his class, but that was 2020, I think. But I think Donovan Jackson was a 5-star in that class too, and he's the one that got smoked on that game-sealing interception. Yeah, but that's a very, very, very talented. Like, because you list all these guys, but there's a lot of guys for Michigan that have gone through their career without a win against Ohio State. In my lifetime alone.
Yeah.
But there's not guys that are like popping in my head that I'm like that it matters that they didn't win a game. Like maybe like Jabril Peppers. I assume he didn't win a game.
Here's what I'll tell you. Like, and I am not all Michigan fans. If they didn't beat Ohio State and they weren't statistically an all-time great, I have a hard time. Like, I have some autographed helmets. I have some autographed whatever. I don't have Jabril Peppers. I don't have Rashawn Gary because they never beat Michigan or because they never beat Ohio State.
Gotcha.
Like, it's harder for me to put them over the hump.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which, like, going back to, I don't remember when we did
Henne never won one, right?
No. Yeah. I guess I do have his, but he's the all-time passing leader. So, like, it's just different. But, yeah, like, if they weren't an all-time Michigan great and they didn't beat Ohio State, it's like, I loved Jabril Peppers. I loved Rashawn Gary. I'm also like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, it's not as much. It's whatever.
Well, and especially Jabril Peppers, he got a lot of hype. I mean, he was a Heisman finalist, but never got over that hump.
J.J. McCarthy had a touchdown pass that threaded the needle in an unbelievable way on 3rd and 10.
Yeah.
He threw across his body to pick up some much-needed yardage that allowed for a crucial first down pickup on the next play, or it allowed for the first down on the next play. He extended plays that needed to be, also running for a big gain late. He went 16 for 20 on his way to picking up his third straight win against Ohio State, where he wanted to go, but they picked Kyle McCord instead of him. He may not have had Maserati Marv, but he still certainly outplayed Honda McCord, who completed 20% fewer of his passes and threw 2 picks, one of which led to Michigan's first touchdown and the other ended the game. Marvin Harrison Jr. was targeted 9 times by Honda McCord, and he caught it 5 times. Michigan caught it twice.
Wow.
That's crazy to me. Like, that's not a good percentage there. Michigan has never trailed in the second half of any of their 12 regular season games this season and currently has 28 consecutive regular season wins, tying the Big Ten record. Home against Fresno State is first up next season, so they'll probably beat the record. They have 24 straight Big Ten wins. Home against USC is the first conference game next season. So that one, I don't know who's going to be their coach or their quarterback or anything.
I'm sure Lincoln Riley will still be there.
Probably. But last week I said that if Michigan won, there might be a turning of the tide. And to be honest, I think there may have been one. But J.J. McCarthy might leave. So then they would have to replace a quarterback. They do lose a couple receivers. They lose Blake Corum. They might lose Donovan Edwards. They lose a few off the offensive line. Like, they have a lot to replace on offense, but the defense should return almost everybody. And then Ohio State loses guys too, most notably for me, Marv. And I know that you'll say they're bringing in 5-star guys or whatever, but they're
bringing in the number 1 overall recruit at wide receiver.
Yeah, but like, they've also had higher rated recruits than Michigan for the last 3 years that were playing in the game, and they've lost the last 3 by over 14 points per game on average.
Yeah.
So
I like the turning of the tide thing. Like, I honestly think it'll go in the opposite direction. Like, Ohio State loses some guys, but I still think they've got some guys that I think are very talented too. I think the defense will even be better next year than it was like this year as far as talent-wise. At least on the back end, like the D-line will need to replace some guys, like assuming at least JTT will go pro, maybe Jack Sawyer. Mm-hmm. I could see Jack Sawyer coming back. I heard that he was one of the only guys in the at least as far as the leaders that were even trying to get players fired up. But I do think, like, as far as the turning of the tide, I think it's going to go the opposite direction. I think it's going to go back in Ohio State's favor. I think the last 2 years, not this year, Michigan's just dominated them on the field, like even in the second half. So there were like very clear issues that they needed to fix. This time I feel like it's just straight up like Michigan was playing with an edge. Like Michigan was making the crazy plays that Ohio State wasn't really making. I mean, minus Marv's one-handed catch as he's getting tackled to the ground, but that's a normal play for Marv. Yeah. Like, you know, like, but so like Michigan was making crazy plays, like like some of the throws JJ was making, and even on those throws, like the receivers had, like, JJ could only put it in a spot where the receivers had to make a play on the ball, and they made the play.
The one where he threw across his body on third down, and Cornelius Johnson had to stop and dive, and still caught it clean.
Plays like that, or even even just the Roman Wilson touchdown, like JJ put that through threaded that through there. But just like those kind of plays, like I think Michigan had a different edge in the rivalry this year. Like the report all over everything is that like Ohio State wasn't really fired up in the second half, and that like and I just think Ohio State's got to come into that game with a different fire underneath them, and I think that hopefully is clear to the coaches that was the issue this year, and that is addressed. And I think if that's addressed and they play as well as they did this year, I think Ohio State's in good position to bounce back in the game.
When Ohio State went on their tying drive where they just ran it, I was like, oh no.
Oh, you could see it. You could see it even like in the Michigan sideline. The fans, like there was no life anywhere, and you'd think that's when you put the dagger in and you end the game. But then Michigan just responded with the touchdown drive and then stopped Ohio State and then kicked a field goal and went up 10. And that, I think that, and then the early interception were like the biggest differences in the game was Michigan's ability to respond to Ohio State fighting back. But
let me ask you this. So I was pissed when it was the only time in the entire game that I was pissed at Sherrone Moore. when they didn't go for that last fourth down, when they kicked the field goal to go up 6, because there was still a minute left. They still have Marvin Harrison Jr. I thought for sure Ohio State was going to win that game.
I was worried that they would go for it there. I was like, please kick the field goal. I remember thinking, please kick the field goal. But yeah.
Man alive.
Yeah.
Scarlett and May's pick standings.
Wait, I was just bouncing off you that whole time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I mean, I feel like I said most of my stuff, but yeah, I think like I love the Buckeyes, but like I said, Michigan played with an edge, and I think I do believe like this year was the most evenly matched game since 2016. I think there's a handful of plays that didn't go Ohio State's way that were pretty 50-50, and I think. And it's easy for me, from my perspective, to feel that there were more plays that were 50-50 that just didn't and I'm not blaming anyone, just happened to not go Ohio State's way that would have made a difference in the game. But there were also some missed plays that were a difference maker too, like the touchdown run where Sonny Styles was right there and he just took a bad angle and just didn't even get a chance at the tackle. And you got to make that tackle, and gave up a touchdown, especially as a safety. But that's a guy I've raved about all year, and I think he'll bounce back. But yeah, and then I want to touch on again, like, Ryan Day's lack of fire and lack of aggressiveness, I think, were also a huge issue in this game. Like two of Michigan's longest plays of the whole game, I think 2 of their 3 longest plays. I think they had one play that was the second longest. This was the first and third longest play. One was the halfback pass. And then the other was a designed run for the backup quarterback that we hadn't seen all year. So, like, Michigan had those wrinkles to switch things up, to when they couldn't throw the ball downfield, they threw the ball at the running back. When they couldn't get the run, they had 1.9 yards per carry in the first half, and then they started the second half with the run to the quarterback. And, like, when Michigan is aggressive and switches up to plays that you haven't seen all season, but Ohio State didn't really do that. And I think that's a huge issue with the game too, with this year,
especially with Ryan Day supposedly being a great offensive mind.
Yeah,
it didn't seem like they did anything new or
and
cool.
It seems like Michigan is kind of switched to, like, they play their opponent, but Ryan Day and Ohio State, other than the Georgia game, Ryan Day and Ohio State, like, at least the last couple of years, they're like, we're better than you, we're going to play our way, and we're going to win that way. And it hasn't really worked well against Michigan. Like, Michigan makes adjustments, Michigan plans for the team that they're playing against, but it feels like Ohio State's like, we're going to play our way, and we're going to beat you this way. And it works most of the time. When you're Ohio State, you're going to beat most of the Big Ten doing that. But you'd think that they'd bring out some wrinkles or something against Michigan, but they didn't really.
Yeah. I will say, not to toot my own horn or anything, but Michigan has been running that pitch run to Donovan Edwards all year. And the first time they did it, I was like, halfback pass. And then it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, they've got to be setting something up.
Yeah.
So right when it happened, I was like the Leo meme of, like, pointing at the TV. I was like, I knew that was coming. Scarlett and May's pick standings. So normally we do include the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
But I'm up by a lot.
Yeah.
So we still can. I'm up 79.5% to almost 72%. So,
yeah,
good game.
I was way more aggressive than Ryan Day was this year in my picks. So,
and you lost by more, so maybe that's why you didn't.
Yeah.
Big Ten takeaways. What do you got?
My only one is do away with divisions today. I'd love a rematch on Saturday, just to see, like, how those guys would respond. Like, they just lost. There's been a lot of talk, and it would be even interesting just to see, like, does Roman Wilson call out Marv in the press conference? Does Jesse Minter wave by at the sideline? Like, if there's a rematch coming back on Saturday, there might be a little less talk on that side. But then I also would want the talk more. Like, if they say those things, right, I'd want to see how Ohio State would respond to that if they got another shot at them.
It bums me out, even you just talking about it, because it already, like, diminishes that first matchup. If they know they're going to meet up again, it's like, should we have the JV teams play? Because it doesn't really matter.
I don't know if I feel that way. Like, especially even going forward, like, having a first round bye is going to be a huge deal. Like, being in the top 4 seeds.
I get it, but like if you're both 11-0 or whatever,
Yeah, it's a lot.
and then you're gonna play the next game. I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're gonna come out and not try, but like as a fan, I'll be like, I'll get them next week. And
it'll also be tougher to make the Big Ten championship, so it'll be
Yeah.
interesting how often that is even a rematch. But
I do. So there was that one Big Ten coach that said the sign stealing stuff was worth 21 points. So really, Michigan beat Ohio State by more this year. If they would have been able to have Connor Stalions, they would have won by 27
yeah.
instead of 6.
Well, like I said, Ohio State scored about the same amount of points they've scored the last couple of years, but they have also had the worst offense this year compared to the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So
Well, Michigan didn't have their head coach. My Big Ten takeaway is Big 1, Little 12, Mid 1.
chill.
My one
I like you feel like Michigan's just finally got to mid. I feel like I feel like Michigan's better than mid at this point. You know?
Yeah. No, yeah.
I mean, I
would
think
agree with that.
they'll probably regress after all the guys they lose this year, and it'll be interesting what happens.
All 2
with
of their
Harbaugh.
6th-year seniors.
Yeah.
One of whom plays. One step further take, not really a hot take, but definitely not a cold take. Mine is Big 1, Little 13. I'm just joking. Come on, man. My real one is Ohio State should fire Ryan Day and do whatever it takes to hire Sharon Moore.
Oh my goodness.
So they haven't matched Michigan's toughness or physicality or fire the last 3 years, and they need to bring in someone who can get that done. Similar to Michigan hiring Bo Schembechler, except Bo was gone from Ohio State for a number of years coaching Miami of Ohio before taking the job.
Yeah.
Ohio State should try to hire Sharon Moore.
It's funny because my one step further take is Ryan Day will be fine. I still actually think this Ohio State team is better than last year's, and it's unfortunate that they're a lot less likely to sneak into the playoff this year.
Dang. Viewer questions. I'm not going to answer the first one. I'll let you.
You can answer it too if you want.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, so, I mean, obviously it's tough. I was pretty sad for most of the day Saturday. I also had a long day. Like, I woke up early and went to game day, and yeah, it was a long day. So I was also very tired. But no, I recovered. Sunday night I watched my favorite comedy movie. That always helps brighten me up. We both love Hot Rod. So, but in seriousness, like, losing 3 straight has been awful. And I gotta turn this question to you a little bit. I can't even fathom losing 16-17 and chickening out of the 18th. Like, how did you, like, I don't even understand, like, I can't even wrap my mind around that. How did you handle that?
I mean, I dreaded the last game.
That's sad.
I'd like watch it with no hope and just hope that Michigan didn't get blown out.
I'm glad I'm not even close to that point yet. Like, even if Michigan even if Michigan won again next year, I still would feel like I wouldn't be dreading the game.
When you win 16 out of 17, you can feel that way.
Yeah.
When you've lost 16 out of 17, you have this fandom PTSD
Yeah.
where you're like, Iowa could definitely pull this off this weekend. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's funny too because like I ended up watching the game at a tailgate of a Michigan fan. It was just I was with another Michigan fan. I was with another guy that was rooting for Ohio State, and they just took us into their tailgate. We were going to just go to a bar and watch the game, but then we ended up watching the game with them at the tailgate, which was really cool. And it was like, got along with the Michigan fans really well. But then all of a sudden, the fourth quarter came along, and they were like, you got to go. I was like, what? And I do think it's partly like that PTSD of like, if it happens again, I think if Ohio State won that game, I think they did not want me there.
Probably.
Yeah. And yeah, but I mean, I would have handled it well, I feel like, but that's on them.
Next question. Does Michigan have what it takes to win the national championship? I hope so, but I'm still not confident in my confidence after many a year of getting kicked in the nugs. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like they're not going to play TCU again. That's for sure at this point. Like what we're looking at, like they're going to play a good team. I think no matter what
the only
happens,
thing would be, what if Michigan plays Florida State without Jordan Travis?
That's fair. That would be the one that would be similar to TCU.
Yeah.
But even still, like Florida State, they recruit on a different level than TCU. But No, yeah, I mean, obviously they've got it. They've got a shot. I think they've got it. They've got what it takes. But it's still Michigan. I don't think they will.
Is there any chance that Ohio State still makes the playoff?
I think it's slim, but the scenario where they're in for sure is if Georgia, Washington, Michigan all win, then Texas and Florida State lose. I think Ohio State is guaranteed to be in. Where it gets dicey is if Bama wins or Oregon wins. If Texas wins, I feel like they're probably automatically out, or Florida State.
Now, I kind of wish we were recording this after the new rankings come out.
Yeah, it'll depend on where they put them. Yeah,
I think that's super key.
But at the same time, like if they put them ahead of Bama, they put them ahead of Oregon. If they put them ahead of all those one-loss teams, those one-loss teams still all have a top 5 matchup. Like at least Bama and Oregon both have top 5 matchups to at least give the committee like fuel to jump them.
I also wonder if Jordan Travis didn't get hurt, but they lost, would they still get in over Ohio State?
Yeah.
But he's hurt, so
yeah.
Frustratingly, I actually think there's a decent chance. I think Louisville needs to beat Florida State, obviously. Oklahoma State needs to beat Texas. Shout out Alan Bowman, former Michigan third stringer. And then I think it gets trickier if Oregon beats Washington because both of those teams could get in instead of Michigan and Ohio State. Like if they're like, let's give the 2 teams to the Pac-12 instead.
It'll be interesting to see if the Big Ten if not the Big Ten, the College Football Playoff Committee even ranks Oregon above Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Just their biggest win of the year is a team where their whole coaching staff knew they were getting on a private jet afterwards to East Lansing. So
yeah,
that's Oregon doesn't have a great resume, so I don't know. Yeah, like even if Oregon beats Washington, I feel like there's an argument to put Ohio State above Oregon. Beats Washington. Sorry.
Oh yeah. But I mean, still Oregon would be the conference champion, and
right.
And Ohio State wouldn't be. But so ESPN is a playoff prediction tool that shows the scenario in Ohio State in over Washington if Oregon beats Washington.
I think that's the way it should be.
See, I don't know, just because it's a bonus game. Like, Ohio State didn't get to play in an extra game, so you're going to get punished for playing in the extra game.
But then Ohio State's getting punished because the Big Ten didn't get rid of divisions. Because Oregon and Washington, when the Pac-12 had divisions, were in the same division. They wouldn't be playing right now if they had divisions. So
this is why there should be more... not regulation. I'm not saying I want more regulation. Just more uniformity in the conferences. Because this is dumb. The SEC playing fewer games is dumb. Whatever.
But even with uniformity, it's hard when there's so many teams and they're so spread out that like even if they had the same amount of conference games and they played the same amount of non-Power 5 non-conference games, the same amount of FCS games, like it's still really easy to have a really easy schedule with all those things.
I agree, but it could be closer to even.
Yeah.
How does it feel with Jeff Brom leaving Purdue to go to Louisville to have Jeff Brom have such a big part of Ohio State's future in his hands?
I hadn't thought about it till just now. But it's interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's fun.
That's a fun
I mean, I think they're going to win, but
yeah.
Does Zack still believe that Kyle McCord is a good quarterback?
Yes and no. I'm definitely less of a Kyle McCord advocate now for sure. I think he made some really good throws and he played well in the game for the most part, other than that last interception and the interception early, which I don't think he's obviously he threw the ball. He's part to blame in that play, but the left guard gets absolutely destroyed and then he's getting hit as he threw it. So it's like, and Marv was, I feel like Marv was open on the play if he gets the ball off, but no, yeah, he's definitely not great.
Let me ask it this way. I didn't ask it this way. A viewer did, but let me change it. Do you hope Ohio State goes to the portal for a quarterback?
That's the thing is, like, he's still shown flashes of being really good, and he's grown throughout the year. So, I mean, obviously it'll be up to the coaching staff. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought somebody in from the portal. I wouldn't be against them bringing in somebody from the portal. But I also don't necessarily think that means that Kyle McCord won't just win the job again, and that it wouldn't be the right call.
Yeah.
Like, I think Kyle McCord could still be a really elite quarterback. He's shown really, really good flashes, and if he keeps developing, I think he could be a really good quarterback. This is his first year starting, so, and he's got a pretty good resume if you're at any other school. It's just a different expectation at Ohio State.
I think in part because of all the receivers that they have.
Yeah, I mean even if they don't make the playoffs, he'd probably be close to breaking the Michigan touchdown record.
Maybe. How many does he have?
He's 24, 25, I think. What's the record, 28?
Yeah,
something like that?
Were those dimes JJ was throwing flukes, or is he a great quarterback?
I didn't answer that question. I missed that question on here. Apparently, there were a lot of viewer questions this week.
There were.
Naturally.
Yeah. I think if these quarterbacks switched teams, if JJ is on Ohio State, I think he wins the Heisman. And I think Kyle McCord gets relegated more to Cade McNamara game planning, where they're like, just take care of the ball. Just take care of the ball. Which, like, he doesn't turn it over a lot. It did seem like watching some Ohio State games throughout the year, it seemed like every time he threw it to a defender, they'd drop the ball.
Really?
Like Notre Dame, it happened once or twice. It happened last week once or twice.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I can think of the one play last week, but Cade Stover did a good job of like ripping that ball out. Like, he played defense well on the
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. That
That was one where I was like, dang. Like that was Michigan's shot, and then Rod Moore did it anyways. I do think Kyle McCord starts on this Michigan team if JJ's not there, but only because Michigan is fine running the ball through your face over and over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, I don't know, like, Ohio State's offense is just different. It's comparing oranges to apples when you compare it's really hard to compare Kyle McCord to J.J. McCarthy. And it's easy to say what you said. And it's easy to, like, look at the stats and all of that and just agree. But, like, J.J., did he even take throws downfield? Like Marv was
Not
doing and
Saturday.
having to do?
I will say, though, because last year Michigan just had big play against Ohio State, it did seem like most of the game Ohio State had two deep safeties. They were like, we're not going to give up a big play. Mm-hmm. And Michigan was like, okay. Well, I mean, we talked about that last week, how if there was one team in the country who is fine getting short yard down the field, it's Michigan.
Yeah. And I think the biggest factor in why that worked so well was that interception early, which is on McCord.
Yeah. The throw to Cornelius Johnson, it's funny how people that I know of certain fan bases say, what a dumb throw.
Wait, which throw?
The one where he throws it across his body to Cornelius Johnson on the third down.
Oh, the one where he don't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he just showed it.
I don't know. I don't think it was a dumb throw.
I mean, like,
I understand coaching quarterbacks don't do that.
Yeah.
However, the ball, I don't think it went over anybody. It didn't go right next to any defenders. Mm-hmm. There was nobody there, and if it's not caught, it's incomplete. He has that ability to make that throw. We've seen that multiple times. I don't think it's a bad throw.
And it's different throwing that throw across your body to the middle of the field. Like, he threw it back towards the middle of the field across his body, but I don't even think it was to the hash.
Yeah.
Like, it was,
It was a scramble drill at that that point. Like, the defense was all sucking in. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. But the throw to Roman Wilson, I saw after the game that J.J. McCarthy said he was looking at, I think it was number 25, maybe 35, something. He said anytime, watching film, anytime he turned his head, he never looked back to the quarterback or to find the ball. So, and then watching the replay, right when he turns his head away from J.J. McCarthy is right when he throws the ball. And, I mean, it was just a dime. I don't know. I've been defending him all year long, but really all 2 years. Which head coaching hire, Michigan State, Northwestern, A&M, Mississippi State, so far is the best? What do you think?
I feel like partly because it was luck and like they just happened upon him, but I feel like it's got to be Northwestern. Like to go from being 1-11 last year with like the coach that they've had for a really long time and has done a really good job for Northwestern, to go to an interim coach and win 7 games. Then they hired him. I think that is really impressive, and it's partly luck. Like obviously they just happen to have that guy on their staff already. But
this was his first year on the staff too.
Really, yeah, I didn't even realize that. But I do think I don't know as much about the Mississippi State guy, but as the MSU and A&M guys, I think they made really good hires with Smith and Elko. But
yeah, I'm with you. I think it's Northwestern. Like Mike Elko was a hot name, but he's only been a head coach for 2 years. He went 9-4 his first year, and then 7-5 this year. Jonathan Smith from Michigan State is a clear step up from Mel Tucker, who had 1 winning season before he came to East Lansing. But Smith only has 2, and he's 34-35 overall as a head coach. I get that he was at Oregon State,
yeah,
and he had 10 wins last season, but that's sandwiched by a 7-win season 2 years ago and then 8 wins with DJU this year. So I'm honestly just not really sold on any of them, but David Braun at Northwestern was really impressive, stepping in at the last minute and leading to Northwestern to 7 regular season wins for the first time since 2018.
Wow.
I don't know. So Mike Elko, Jonathan Smith, great. I think the biggest thing for those schools is hiring them now.
You make it seem like Braun, that it's like their most wins since 2018, but they did make the Big Ten championship in 2020 during the COVID year.
Yeah, they just went 7-4 or something.
Yeah.
Or 7-2.
Yeah.
I think it was 7-2. Yeah, COVID year didn't count. I'm just joking. Big Ten championship preview. Michigan is favored by 23 against Iowa. Do you want to include this in the pick standings?
Sure.
Okay. Blake Corum broke Michigan's single-season rushing touchdown record against Ohio State. He has 22 on the season. You know who he passed? Hassan Haskins.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was going to say Mike Hart.
Iowa football, the entire team, rushing and passing, has 22 touchdowns on the season.
Impressive.
Yeah. Blake Corum has exactly 976 rushing yards on the year on 202 carries. And Iowa quarterback Deacon Hill has exactly 976 passing yards on the year on 201 passing attempts. Yeah, he didn't start the whole year, obviously,
right.
But what are the odds that Deacon Hill finishes with more yards through the air than Blake Corum? Who gets 1,000 yards first? Because they only need 24 yards.
Whatever odds they would give me, I would not take them. That
it's Deacon Hill?
Yeah, I would not take that, whatever odds they gave me.
Yeah, I bet that. I mean, Iowa's defense is really good, though. I don't know. I do think Blake Corum, and I'll take Blake Corum, and I'll take Michigan by 21. I could see Michigan getting conservative, like they're not going to score. Let's just get out of here and get ready for the playoff.
Yeah, especially with that defense, and you don't want to get guys to get hurt or anything. No. Yeah. I think Michigan. I don't think Iowa scores any points. I think Michigan gets out to an early lead and then they just kill the clock. I got Michigan by 20. I think they win 20-0. Like they'll score a touchdown and a field goal in the first half. They'll score a touchdown early in the second half. Then they'll kick another field goal, and that's the game.
It was funny seeing the spreads of the other conference championship games. Yeah. Or like the over-under was like 55, and then this was like 35 or whatever. Which is the highest for Iowa in weeks. Yeah.
In weeks.
And it's not because they're supposed to do anything.
Yeah.
Things no one is talking about. What do you got?
I think it's easy to blame Ryan Day, but at the end of the day, players still need to execute. Michigan didn't make any big mistakes the whole game, but Ohio State turned the ball over multiple times and missed a field goal that they made before the timeout. But yeah, I think it's easy to blame Ryan Day. I think he's been a really great coach. They've only lost 7 games in his entire career there, and like all 7 of those games, you can look at him and be like, yeah. I mean, other than the 2 games against Michigan, but they're also still a little tainted. But the rest of them have been really, really close games. Like even 2019 against Clemson, they're a fumble away from a bad call fumble away from winning that game and going to the national championship. They lost in the national championship in 2020 to Alabama, but even in that game, they lost their star running back Trey Sermon on the first play of the game. And there was a plethora of other guys that were just out because of COVID in general. But
what were they ducking?
They weren't ducking. They just actually were sick.
Oh, okay, weird.
But yeah, then you even look at the college football playoff game last year where it came down to a missed field goal. Like it's easy to blame Ryan Day when they've lost some of these big games, but it's hard to win big games. It's a big expectation when you're at Ohio State, but it's hard to win. It's hard to win a lot of big games.
My thing no one is talking about is the location of Lou Holtz.
Goodness.
Tweet of the week. I have a few. I was even like right after the game, I was retweet, and I was like, okay, like I need to start weeding these out because I like way too many of these.
Yeah.
And I could only boil it down to 3. I'm sorry. So I'll do 2, and then you can do 1, and then I'll because my first 2 are kind of linked. So mine is from Mike Sainer still. Quote retweeting Ohio State's official account showing players dancing on the field pregame with the caption "Let's dance" with the dancing guy emoji. Sainer still used the dancing guy emoji a few times and then said "right up out the big house" with the peace sign.
Wow.
And then from @MGoHumor, cheer up Buckeye seniors, you'll always have that COVID year forfeit to tell your kids about.
Wow.
Man, what do you got?
So mine is from @Tony Grossi or whatever. I don't even know who that guy is.
Oh, Grossi.
I see him on Twitter all the time. I don't know who he
Tony
is.
Grossi.
Who is he?
I don't know. I just know how to pronounce it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. But I don't know. I'm assuming he's a Browns fan because this is a Browns reference. I love the Browns, so I thought this was hilarious. But it says, and I hate the Steelers. It's about Mike Tomlin, actually. But Mike Tomlin lost a playoff game to his rival with an interim coach, and the Steelers didn't fire him, so... The Browns beat them in the playoffs in 2020 when Kevin Stefanski had COVID, and Baker Mayfield was their quarterback. Ridiculous that they lost that game. I feel like hindsight they should fire him.
My last one is from Aaron McCann of M Live. He said, a day after his Big Ten suspension lapsed, Jim Harbaugh used a league-organized conference call promoting Saturday's title game to renew his push for revenue sharing in college sports. Why now? He spent the evening in the hospital with an injured player, which was the lineman that broke his tibia and fibia.
Yeah, that was sad. That was tough.
But I honestly love that Harbaugh came back, and I have said I think a big part of the NCAA hating Jim Harbaugh is his speaking out about this. I love that his very first call on this was like, hey, yeah, we should give the players money.
Yeah.
I just like that a lot. Kind of a middle finger to the NCAA, who's not going to exist in a few years.
Yeah, I do think all of that is pretty cool there at the end.
Yeah.
Other than like having to do with anything with him being suspended, but
yeah, I agree. He shouldn't have been suspended. But with that, we'll see you next week to talk bowl games. Hopefully, only one playoff game for our teams.
You would hope that.
I mean, I just don't think you should be able to back it in twice. You know what I mean?
I feel like they're more deserving of the back end this year than last year.
Well, they can make up for it by not letting them in. Until then, go Blue.
Go Buckeyes.